Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guest careers to invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today we're speaking with Rory Henry, Director of Arrowroot Family Office and co-founder of AFO Wealth Management Forward. Rory, a certified financial planner and behavioral financial advisor, has pioneered the advisor, and that is ADVISROR methodology, emphasizing return on relationship. With nearly 2 decades in the field, Rory is also the author of Holistic Guide to Wealth Management, a comprehensive work featuring insights from over 24 thought leaders in finance. Outside the office, Rory enjoys sports, golf, and performing improv in Los Angeles. Join us as we explore Rory's integration of behavioral finance and holistic wealth management. Rory, thanks for joining me.
Zane, thank you so much for having me on the show. We're both part of Accounting Influencers, so I have been looking forward to this conversation and speaking to your audience here.
Yeah, it's always great to have you. It was nice to meet you through, the AIR group.
Yes.
Which I always feel a little out of my depth. Everybody's got so much going on in those groups, and you have got a ton going on. As I was preparing for this, I was like, that picture is like the picture of your book. Like, you always think there's like a little bit of Rory that I knew, and then when you start digging into it, there's so much more to it. And I had like 50 questions, which I had to like hear down. I've got my standard ones that I tell everybody to prepare, and then I, have some key points I want. And there's a lot I want to touch. But as anything, when we do start with this conversation, we sort of want to go delve into how did you get started? How did it all begin? How did you decide first to get into the tax world, and then how did you get into the wealth management side of it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zane. I got in the tax business. I ended up owning a tax firm. And then I got restless back in 2014, 15, 16 time. And I saw that the tax profession, the accounting profession, didn't have a CRM. And I asked myself, as I saw HubSpot and Salesforce starting to, make businesses more efficient, I said, the accounting profession, tax professional, we're kind of far behind when it comes to utilizing the CRM. So I set out to build a tax practice management technology, and 2 other bright minds out there, one Carbon overseas, and then Canopy over here, were doing the same thing. And so I went to the venture community and went out to raise money. And during that same time, Zane, is when Canopy Tax, I think they raised 77 million, then a couple of rounds there, and they blew it all on a failed sales and tax prep solution. Yep. And so, actually, as everybody knows, probably listening, they're doing well now, but I went back out to the venture community. They said, Rory, it's a great idea. This is a large TAM, total addressable market, but, we're not going to put our money behind a young buck like you. So my dreams of having a technology company were dashed at that time. But as being an owner of a tax firm and understanding the value that we provide to clients, I said, you know what, we have the ability not only to be more efficient, but to create more value through doing the CAS work, right? I saw the evolution of the profession. And I went through Thomson Reuters Practice Forward program, and I saw the push from moving from compliance to advisory. But I asked myself, Zane, the question, if we want to truly be advisory, shouldn't we be financial advisory and integrate financial planning and wealth management? And that's when I met Rob Santos here at Arrowroot Family Office. And I saw the advancements in the wealth tech solutions and the ability to really integrate the accounting and the wealth management world to do what we do at the family office for the ultra affluent, right? The Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, they have a lawyer, they have a CPA, they have a financial advisor, they have a banker, everybody working in collaboration to advise the family businesses as well as the personal affairs. And so the technology was advancing. I said, well, let's connect these professions. Let's make sure that we can provide truly holistic advice. So I set out to do that in around 2020. started my podcast, I was able to interview some of the brightest minds in accounting, wealth management, behavioral finance, and technology, and learn from the subject matter experts in different areas. And then from there, I created a book, and I said, we need a guide, a roadmap, a playbook for accounting professionals to be able to integrate these solutions in a holistic and authentic way. That was a long answer to your question there, Zane.
No, it's a great answer, and it gives a lot of insight and why I said you've got a lot of things going on. I mean, you touched on the podcast as well, which has been really successful and great to listen to. But I think, one of the things that I think when people hear what you've just said, they're going to ask the question, what do you mean by holistic?
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually mean?
Well, in the wealth management space, for a couple of decades now, we talk about, holistic financial planner or holistic wealth management. And it's taking a look at not just the taxes, the tax planning, the estate planning, the insurance, right, the investment management. So most people, when they think of financial advisors, Zane, maybe some of those folks in the audience, they think of the stock picker, right? They think of investments only. But really, there has been an evolution in the wealth profession from being that stock picker or picking out that portfolio to really being a holistic financial planner, making sure that the client has a financial plan, making sure that they're taking consideration, the proper insurance, right? That they have an estate plan. 66% of the population doesn't have an estate plan, Zane, or an up-to-date estate plan. And that boggles my mind. So holistic financial planning is really looking at the whole parts. And one aspect is the tax component. And so I asked myself, on the wealth side, yeah, this is great. We're doing holistic financial planning. But if we're really trying to be holistic, we got to make sure that small and medium-sized business owner, the people that you advise, the small and medium-sized business owners, the wine owners out there, also are taking consideration the business advisory aspect of their finances. Because one decision affects the other. Should I put more money into my business? Should I diversify into investments? I got to make sure that I have an estate plan that takes in consideration these businesses, having a succession plan, buy-sell agreements, right? So making sure that these two professions that have historically worked in silos are working collaboratively to advise the family businesses or a business, right? And to advise the personal affairs of the family as well.
Why do you think people think of those functions so much separately? Like a lot of people see it as a silo. Like, this is my tax person. This is my wealth advisor. This is the person who keeps, like, why do you think we all have that mindset? I mean, me included. Like, why do we do that? Like,
I had that mindset as well.
Yeah, it seems obvious when you say it out now. It's like, of course, all these people should be talking to each other at least once in a while, right? But my three people have never spoken to each other.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, it's just like they've never spoken to each other, and I sit here going, that seems dumb of me. Like, why am I not being told that these people should speak to each other?
Yeah, and there's probably some conflicting information there, right? And that's where I long argued, Zane, that the accounting professional, hopefully those listening, they're uniquely positioned to be what I call advisor, and the roars for return on relationship, really being that quarterback to that client's financial life. I'm not saying that you need to learn investment management. I'm not saying you need to be a holistic financial planner, but you can bring together the other subject matter experts to start advising your clients on what matters most to them. So as we'll probably touch on, I'm sure you have questions in regards to behavioral finance, but there's this really big push in the wealth side, and I'm introducing it to the accounting and tax side, about having the ability to do a deep discovery on really what matters most to your client. So doing that personalization by understanding really what the values are of your client, looking at the dimensions of who they are outside of their occupation or outside their finances, looking at their intellectual well-being, looking at their physical and emotional well-being, and also doing the exercise of really asking them if their best hopes were realized, what would that life look like? So all the research that I've been doing is really looking at how we can make better decisions in the here and now to make that future life actually happen. A friend of mine, Hal Hirschfield, has a great book for those in the audience that want a good read. It's called Your Future Self. And he did research that showed that we see our future selves, Zane, as really no different than a stranger. And I think for those in the audience and can probably understand is when they go to the supermarket when they're hungry, they probably load up on too many groceries because they're not taking that future self in mind that, hey, that person a week from now probably is not going to need all those groceries. So the research into that is showing how we can make better decisions in the here and now to make that future life come true. It's things like doing a visual exercise of what that future self looks like. So Zane, let's do, if you wanted right now, do an exercise, you have some goals, I'm sure, in mind, 10 years from now, what does that future life look like for you? If you can be as vivid and as visual as possible, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? And then how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like the worst person at this because I beat up on myself all the time. Like I'm all about right now. Everything I do is for plans in the future,
Yeah.
but most of the time those plans ignore the me side of it. It's like, let's make sure my kids are in a good place, family's in a great place, my wife's in a great place, the business is a good place because I got to keep people employed. And I think very little on what effect that could have on my own life. And I know that's a mistake, and I know I got to do better, and I'm trying to do better. And I've done a great job actually this year. I'll give myself a tap on the back.
I
But
like it.
I get what you're saying because my picture of my future is literally me standing, looking at other people and making sure they're in a good space. And it never considers me being in that picture, needing to be there to support them.
Well, let's build that picture then. If we can paint that, Zane, I like this is actually good. Can you give me a picture of maybe you being in a spot where all those people are being successful? Is there a celebration of maybe a corporate achievement or something, a kid's graduation or something where you're at like, oh my gosh, this is that ideal state that I'm looking for, that I know the people that I care most about are being successful, and that in turn will give me peace of mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly easy for me because my kids in 10 years' time will be sort of at the end of high school. I have a 7 and a 9-year-old. So,
Nice.
my big goals right now is getting them through the schooling stage and putting them in a position to be able to enter a school that they want to enter and do something that they love. So, a lot of what I do right now is setting them up for success. And then at the same time is making sure that I create a good relationship with my wife, her and I on the same page in terms of what our goals look like, where we want to be in 10 years. And then I need to sort of part of that, and I'm having personal discussions about this with my business partner, is adjusting my role to make sure I get to that place so that in 10 years' time, I'm able to enjoy the fruits of my labor that I'm putting in for the next 10 years.
Yeah. That makes sense. And we always grapple with, right, planning for that future self, but also making sure that we're living in the experiences for the now, right? We can't overwork ourselves working 60, 70 hours a week, and then we miss our child's sporting events, right? So it's making sure we have that delicate balance between, okay, saving for tomorrow or making sure tomorrow's okay, but also having those experiences in the here and now that are rewarding, that we can look back on and that we're not regretting.
And that is, I think, a really great takeaway for anybody listening to this. Like, you got to live in the now, and you can't always just plan for the future. Planning for the future is important. And this is why good advisors are critical. And I do want to sort of roll back to, you were talking about the accountant being the quarterback. And I feel like that's really good advice for the accountant that does the tax portion of it, right? And I made a note of you when you were saying that. What advice would you give to a person like me that doesn't do taxes, right? I just see the business side of it. I know who their tax person is, and I, most of the time know they don't have too much going on the personal wealth side. What advice would you give me to be able to help people push to that direction that they are doing this type of planning? They're finding somebody that is thinking about them holistically and putting these pieces together. Really hard for me to do, right? Other than some of my advisory projects where I can tell people like, hey, you're not doing this, this, and this. We should really find some people. You have some great, contacts. I got a great list of people. Talk to these people. And, I know some of them that also practice holistic health management, and I can put them in front of it, and they would bring pieces to the table, which I know can be helpful. But my general client, especially any accountant doing a CAS practice, we don't really have that opportunity to have those conversations.
Well, I think that's where the beauty of actually diving deeper in doing that work, because I think, Zane, you probably do a lot of the business planning and aspects of what I just covered in the personal financial planning side, but just doing it with the business, the mission statement of the business, values of the business, right? And just taking that step further. And if you're working with that business owner, it's like, okay, let's understand, how this is going to impact the personal finances, right? And then it's just doing the other holistic aspects with the estate planning, right? Making sure they have the correct insurance and put in place. But I think really you have the ability to have those conversations with that client, ask those deeper questions. I always say that we need to move from being the person that has all the answers, Zane, to being the person that ask the right questions. It's a great book by Michael Bungay Stanger called The Coaching Habit. And he talks about this very aspect, how we have an inner urge, he calls it the advice monster, to want to give advice to people. And it's in our nature, especially if we got credentials, if we went to schooling, right? We want to show people that, we have expertise and we can solve their problem. A lot of times we want to save them, right? Or it's actual, they say it's a control issue. We want to control the situation. But if we go deeper and maybe ask that small and medium-sized business owner, what they want out of their business, what does success look like for them? I always say, there's business owners that want to IPO. There's business owners that want a great lifestyle business so they can spend more time with their family. So I think it's important to really maybe ask those questions, dig a little deeper. We're working with a CPA partner of ours, and he brought a client to us, and it was just a tax question, a 401k, right? Saving for retirement for him, for his employees. And I paused and I asked him, okay, great. We'll have tax savings here, but really, what do you want out of that business? And what is that ideal situation? What is your best hopes for your future? He paused, Zane. He thought, and he goes, Rory, and the folks that were on the Zoom call, he said, I really want to be able to retire in 10 years. And I want to travel the country in an RV and visit different national parks. So that simple question, right, went from a tax technical conversation, right, to like, oh, this is the ideal future that I want. Because I don't want to necessarily leave my business, but I want to be able to have a succession plan, but I want to have a plan to have my team members take over, and I'll do more consulting work. I want to be able to do that from on the road in my RV. So it's, once again, it's that conversation can flip from just technical advice to more transformational advice. And when people have that ideal state in mind, like we talked about, that future state, and they can provide that feeling as, it's freedom to me. I have that feeling of knowing I'm on the road and experiencing life, that becomes more tangible. And then they're more likely to make better decisions for their business, their personal life, to make that, cross-country dream come true.
I think a question like that is well received by most people, or is it, I'm thinking of my clients who are like underwater, right? Life is tough. The wine industry is struggling this year, alcohol beverage in general. And a lot of the time, they're just trying to focus on, how do I meet that next covenant? How do I meet that next payroll? And I know they need to step back and think a little bit about what the future looks like. Because sometimes, you want to ask the question, and they probably can't ask it this way, like, is this really worth your time right now?
Yeah.
But 99% of people are not going to be very accepted to that question. You're probably, risk losing the client. But effectively, I'm asking the same question that you put to that client, going, what do you want? Like, what is the ultimate goal? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
But it's not always well received. So how do you get to a point? From your side, how do you coach somebody to be able to ask those questions?
First and foremost, it's this empathy, right? Like, oh, I understand that it's very difficult right now. The wine business is going through some changes, and I know you're trying to meet payroll, make sure your employees are taken care of. I understand that. So that's that empathy perspective, right? But then I think you hit it on the head there, Zane. I think of when you put it into that or you frame it into the way that they look at what their optimal life looks like. I want to make sure I can retire with a couple $1 million. Well, you might not be able to do that on the current trajectory you're in. You might have to switch industries, right? So I think when you ask that question, they'll come up with the answer themselves. Like, I really believe in this business. We're dealing with a dip here in what's going on, but I know that we've made it through the past, or we can make it through again. I think they'll come up with the answer on their own. It's when you pose the question and let them think about it, they'll find ways to see if it makes sense for them to continue on. So once again, I think it goes back to, you have an answer, you see the numbers in your head, but you don't know the emotional aspect of where that person's at. They may be like, hey, no, I've done this before. I'll do it again. I'm going to grow this business, right? Or you know what, Zane, I think I need to make a move here. I'm looking at the numbers here, and I don't think I could put in 80-hour weeks trying to turn this thing around. So once again, it's asking those questions and maybe letting them come to the solution on their own.
Yeah, the emotional side of it is so tough. Think about the wine space. It's an art, right? People are putting their heart and soul into a bottle, and it's tough to have those difficult conversations with people. But that's at the end of the day what advisory is having the tough conversations. And even if the answer is like, hey, this is going to be really tough. You want to retire on this project, like it's probably not going to happen unless you make these severe changes, which you might not want to do, but then I'm going to show you the picture of what it would look like if you don't make it, right?
Right.
And it's tough. It is emotional. It's difficult conversations to have. People don't always want to hear it. I know sometimes where I like literally held the platter and said, "Yes, your solution."
Yeah.
And they're like, "I don't want to do that." I'm like, "Well, it's that or it's not going to work. Like that's the only answer right now." And they'll just bang their head and continue to go. So it gets emotional.
Yeah.
But I think this is sort of where, your methodology advisor comes in. Explain this again to me and like, how do I implement this with my clients?
Yeah, once again, it's like I said, it's that return on relationship. It's really using the science and psychology behind how we make decisions. It came from behavioral finance, and behavioral finance was really the study of how we made decisions when it comes to our investments. We're irrational beings, and the behavioral finance in the wealth space moved on to this human first approach of really understanding what matters most to our clients. So, we're big on values-based planning. So I really value travel with my family. I want to make sure I have that goal of traveling in the RV across country. Or if I want to IPO my business and I'm really motivated to grow my business, I'm going to put all my effort into my decisions to making sure that reality comes true. So once again, it's really understanding what matters most to our clients, doing the values-based exercises. And then it's having that team of advisors, having Zane in the room, right? Having that CPA, that tax professional, having the financial planner working collectively to make sure that person is being advised, on their finances, both with their business and their personal finances. So it's really effective as far as the clients we work with. Now, not everybody can have always a team of advisors, but there's great tech-enabled solutions out there that you can integrate into a practice to start providing, I always say, a family office level of care. For instance, estate planning. There's a technology partner out there called Trust and Will. They can do an estate plan for as little as $500. I believe a will for as little as $189. So it's making sure that their family's taken care of any unforeseen circumstances. So once again, it's more that white glove treatment. You go above and beyond the CAS work or the tax planning to making sure that their family's taken care of, in case of any unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about behavioral finance because you've brought it up a few times.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, it's obviously about more than just the investments. There's more to it, right? Explain this to a dummy. I'm the dummy. Explain to me, what is behavioral finance?
So there's a couple ways I can explain it. I say we need to look at the past, the present, and then the future. I've touched on the future with your future self, right? Our relationship to money is many times formed in our childhood. Most of it is formed in our childhood. It's cultural, right? It's brought down from generation to generation. There's 4 types of money scripts. Psychologist Brad Klontz wrote a book with Dr. Christy Archuleta, who's been on my podcast a couple of times. That's called Financial Therapy. He basically formed the Financial Therapy Association way back when, a couple of decades ago, when they saw that people were having so many issues around money and the relationship to money. And so we fall many times into 4 different money scripts. There's money avoidant, where we believe that money is evil, right? And that we don't like money. And so, we may not want to generate wealth or generate income there because we think money's bad. So sometimes people fall into that. Examples of that may be, my parents got kicked out of their house when I was a child. And so I associate money with being something bad. So that's one of the money scripts. These are money scripts. There's also money status, where we want to show how much money we have. That is also fraught with issues because we want to overspend because we're keeping up with the Joneses, right? Those people on Instagram, who look like they have money, but we all know they probably don't have a lot of money. So money status is another type of money script that we can fall into. Another one is money worship, where we believe that money can solve all our problems. And we're constantly chasing after money. We believe that money is going to be the solution to our family problems. And that could be cause issues of never want to be happy, and that we're constantly chasing after money. So that's another one. The other one's money vigilance. So it's probably the healthiest of the money scripts. And it's making sure that we're budgeting properly, right? That, that we have our finances in order. The issue with that one is we're not having those experiences, right? We're saving for tomorrow, but we're not experiencing today. So most of us fall into, one of those money scripts. We may fall into a couple here, but it's understanding that relationship to money that we have, because that dictates how we make decisions with our finances, with our business, right? And our personal finances. So really looking back on our upbringing And seeing how we really think about money and a relationship to money is part of this human first approach, uncovering what that relationship to money is. I then say that what the present is doing the values-based planning. What is our top 5 values? Do we value our family? Do we value creativity? Do we value travel, right? It's doing that values exercise, because from there, I think I've stated before, our business decisions, our personal decisions will emanate from those values. It makes our decisions easier. So that's the present. And then once again, doing that future exercise of what that ideal life looks like. We use the best hopes question. If all your best hopes were realized, money was an issue, what would that life look like? And people will paint that picture, which gives them a North Star to meet those goals. So once again, it's doing this deep dive discovery on where people are at, what was their experience with money, who influenced their beliefs around money. Usually there's either an event in our childhood, or we had a mentor or a family member who was influential around our beliefs with money. And then when they have a better understanding of where they came from, where they're at, and then where they want to go, we can craft a financial plan that includes the business advisory aspect of it, right? That to help them meet those goals, those aspirations, and optimize their well-being. I always say, Zane, I'm a behavioral financial advisor. I'm in the belief in the behavior business, helping people believe they can do something, and then creating the necessary behavior changes to make sure that life comes true. And part of that is showing them the financials, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, like, this is very, it's almost like the touchy-feely side of finance, which it always should be, right?
Yeah.
Because money is emotional. It has an effect on very important parts of our lives. But I can imagine that this doesn't necessarily sit well for every person that you get in front of, right? There's going to be people that are just like, no ways, I'm not digging into the past. You're not my psychologist.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's uncomfortable, they don't want to talk about their relationship to money, we wouldn't get into it, right? We could look at other ways, that's obviously being present, right, and making sure that nobody's uncomfortable. So, but the more that people like think about it, they look back and go, this makes sense. This is why I make the certain decisions I do. And this is more of the advanced stuff. I'm not saying those accounting professionals or everybody should adopt this type of methodology, right? But I think we can all do the self-assessment ourselves and have that self-awareness. You know what? This is why I make certain decisions, right? Or doing the future self-exercise on where we want to go. We don't ask ourselves these questions, saying, I didn't, right? Before I went through this methodology, I never asked myself what money meant to me, or what the cultural influences around my beliefs around money. I asked myself what my values were, right? But when I did the exercise, went through it, did the future self, practice, I then was able to have greater clarity on where I was, where I'm at, and then where I want to go. And I think that's incredibly effective. When you do the work on yourself, it's like doing a business, plan on yourself, right? Or doing a personal financial plan. Once you understand your current finances, and doing that work, then you're like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. Here's the choices that I need to make. It makes it easier and clearer.
No, and I listening to you, it's like a light bulb in my head. I feel like I need to go home, read Your Future Self. I've written it down on a piece of paper. I'll go add it to my audio wish list. I think I actually have a credit at the moment, so maybe I'll go buy it after this recording. But it definitely feels like an exercise that everybody should go through, even if you don't want to do it in front of a professional who can help you properly. But it's a good place to start. Have some honest conversations with yourself, figure out where you're going.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book, because this is sort of where this all gets tied in, right? This is all the the methodology, there's the behavioral finance advice, there's like, your company, like, and now we've got the book.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, there's some amazing people in the book. I got to get myself a copy of this book soon.
We'll get you a signed copies.
Yeah. I was about to say, I got to figure out a signed copy of this and give it a read. But tell us about the book. Yeah.
So the book came out of a conversation I was having with Seth Feinberg. I don't know if Seth, a former editor at Accounting Web. He's now CPA Trendlines, and said, Rory, I see all the great work you're doing. I'm talking about holistic wealth management, holistic financial planning. I'm bringing this virtual family office model to the accounting profession. And so he said, the accounting professional needs a guide. They need a playbook. They need a blueprint on how to do this. And so it's like, okay, I gotta write a book now. It's like the goal I had is write a book. And so I set out to write it. And what I quickly realized, Zane, is, and I didn't want to just come from me. I wanted to get others involved. As you know, like I said, I'm big on relationships. And so I was able to, round up 34 plus thought leaders from accounting, wealth management, behavioral finance, the estate planning worlds, folks that people are probably familiar with, Blake Oliver, Randy Johnston, Seth Feinberg's in there, then a number of tech CEOs on the wealth management side to really talk about the different service offerings. It's really an end-to-end solution. If you really look at these two worlds, the accounting and wealth advisory world, it's really taking all the way from the debits and credits, right, to the estate planning and exit planning and everything in between. Ron Baker likes to call it from womb to tomb. We're advising clients from womb to tomb, helping them start that, college plan for their kid, right? Helping them start their first business, grow that business, right? Start retirement plans for themselves and their employees, right? If there's a sale of that business, that liquidity event, right? And then having those investments managed, right? Having that estate plan. And so really the book is a guide to integrate these two wonderful professions who historically, like I said, didn't work together because one decision, like I said, affects another. And so I got the best of the brightest in each of the subject matters, whether it's estate planning, exit planning, life insurance, marketing, client communications, what else? Investment management. Vanguard did a 20-year study on the value of an advisor. And for those in our audience that may be skeptical about financial advisors, I was too, because I didn't become a financial advisor until later in life. Oh, what are you doing? You're not even really doing anything, right? They showed, and this is an investment advice, but they showed that the value of an advisor can be upwards of 3% of net returns. And that's through tax efficient strategies, asset location, right? We can talk about withdrawal strategies, right? As well as behavioral coaching. And behavioral coaching is just making sure people don't make dumb decisions when it comes to the market, Zane. So when COVID hits in March of 2020 and the market dips, double-digit percentages, people get scared and want to, sell everything, go to cash. If you just stay the course, right, most likely that market's going to rebound because history's shown. So, they allowed me to put information from their 20-year study into the book there. And it really shows the value of the advisor from the investment side. And it goes into the value of holistic financial planning. And then I just take it a step further. I'm saying, okay, let's make sure that we include those great business advisors, those accounting professionals who are advising these businesses, because a lot of people's net worth is tied up into their business. Right. So it's looking at the whole instead of just these different silos of tax or accounting or investment management or insurance, right? Or estate planning. It's really making sure you can put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Fantastic. Wait, I get the book.
I'll get you one here, Zane.
No, but other people, where do our listeners find it? Let's do a quick sales pitch.
You can get the book at CPA Trendlines, their shop there. You can get it through that. I also have a website, a landing page there that gives you more information on the book. It's adviseroar.com, ADVISROR.com is up there. But you can purchase a book at CPA Trendlines on their shop.
Great. So we should all go do that. From what I mean, you've got me excited about behavioral finance. I'm sort of sitting here already like rolling through my head everything I need to go do on the personal side, which I've been on the back line for a long time. So I'm, feeling motivated to go relook at my life and at my goals and change things around, which, we've been talking for 30 minutes and you've got me there. So clearly, I mean,
but you can apply a lot of the stuff that we talk about, behavioral finance or human first approach. You can apply it to the work that you're doing and the client work that you have in advising these business owners. It's really doing the deeper discovery and understanding what they want out of their business. And so you take principles of what I talk about in the book that we do on the personal finance side and just apply that to the work that you're doing, with the businesses that you advise. So it's very effective. It's just, we go back to that human first approach. So instead of having a cookie cutter solutions or just being strictly technical, there's nuance involved, right? What we said, there's emotions involved, right? There's psychology involved. And the better that we can understand our clients, the better we can advise them. And then when you have happy, successful clients, they're going to refer more happy and successful clients to you as well. So it's a great referral strategy. We also talk about in the book, I'm a big advocate for getting the non-financial spouse involved. And so someone who might not know the numbers, that are scared by numbers, right? I want to make sure that person, that non-CFO spouse, is just as involved as the financial spouse. And we can do that by talking about the non-financial metrics, right? The values. What do you want out of your family life? What does an ideal situation look like for you, for your family? What does success look like for you? So we can ask those questions to get that non-CFO spouse involved. In turn, it helps out the other spouse because they understand they're involved in the situation. They can maybe help or give suggestions, and improves the relationship you have with the client and with that family.
Yeah, that feels like a good strategy even for the spouse who maybe is financially minded, knows the numbers, but has that poor relationship with money as well, right? Because there's the accountants and the mathematicians out there that just have that bad relationship. And anytime you bring up money in a relationship, then it ends up in a fight. And I think it's a really great way to sort of take that trauma out of the conversation, because you're talking about something that's important to them, and the numbers just happen to be a means to ensure that that thing that's important to them is safeguarded, rather than let's focus on what the numbers look like. So I like the idea of just having that conversation, talking about the values and the goals rather than the nickels and the dimes.
Yeah, you know what? There was a American Psychological Association study that showed that continually, Zane, that finances are the top stress for Americans. And this study's been going on since 2007. 72% of adults report feeling stressed about money at least some of the time. 26% of adults report feeling stressed about money all of the time. And I'm on a mission to really eradicate that stress and help people have a better understanding about money, but also making sure that they can optimize their well-being and not be so stressed out. And that might be making changes in their personal or their business life, right? Business isn't working out well. Maybe we need to make a change. And so you're not so stressed about money. So I think using this human first, this behavioral finance approach is really helping people optimize their well-being and understand how they can make the necessary behavior changes to not live that stressful life when it comes to money.
That's a great goal. So tax guy, wealth advisor, podcaster, book writer, all-around great guy. But what are Rory's new goals? What are your short-term goals for yourself?
Gosh, I mean, I got quite a bit. So I'm going to be doing a lot of the book promotion. I just had a call today with a Hollywood development company that I partnered with. My next step is a television show, Zane. There's only one really big show that's been on Netflix called How to Get Rich by Ramit Sethi. And I think there's an opportunity for more financial literacy shows to help people with their understanding around money. So it's taking what we just talked about today, behavioral finance, psychology of money, and bringing this to a wider audience. So I just had a development call earlier today. We're looking for a mainstream host. So we're looking for our Gordon Ramsay-esque person in finances that can help bring this to the masses, because only a third of the people have a financial advisor, Zane. Very few of those actually probably do the approach that I talk about with behavioral finance and this human first approach. You know, I go back to the tax and accounting side. Everybody's got to file taxes. Most people, a lot of their net worth in their business, small, medium-sized businesses are the backbone of our country. So I'm on a mission to help more people have a better understanding when it comes to their money, help them create generational wealth and optimize their well-being. So I think the next step, and what I talk about, is really giving this methodology to a wider audience, and TV and streaming services are the best way to do that.
That's a hell of a goal. My gosh. It does roll nicely into, I did want to ask about the improv, and I know you do a lot of that. And just give us a quick breakdown. Improv, like, how did you get into that and why?
So it was 2016. I had a fear of public speaking. And I said, I need to get over this fear. It happened when I was in the 7th grade, Zane. My brother was in high school, and I was doing my ASB speech to become president of the ASB. And I was doing the generic speech of, okay, let's, have more pizza parties, more movies on Friday, right? This is a generic speech. And my brother at the time goes, Rory, scratch that speech. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go on stage and I want you to sing Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. So I got up on stage as a 7th grader, crackled voice, and I started singing Whitney Houston, and all the kids started booing.
Oh, gosh.
I got bright red, Zane, ran off stage, right? Traumatic experience. And for a couple of decades, I had a fear of public speaking. So I said, I need to get over this fear of public speaking. And so I took an improv class, level 101, went up there, made an absolute fool of myself. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. But I pushed myself to do level 2, did all 6 levels, started performing on stages in LA, and it became such a rewarding experience, Zane. It taught me a couple of lessons. One, it taught me to be okay with failing, taking chances in life. And so, I don't think I would have a podcast. I don't think I would have been able to write this book. I don't think I'd be having a development company working on a TV show if I didn't take that leap of faith and started becoming okay with failing. So that was one lesson it took that helped me out with. Two, it helped me to start actively listening. Really being present in scenes in an improv scene or class. A lot of people try to be funny, and so you'll come up with a joke in your head, but the other person, your scene partner, has no idea what story you've created. So it makes for bad improv when you're not actively listening and taking the last thing that was said and then building off that. So what that allowed me to do is to really take that and start building off of what people say in my improv interviews, but also just in life, and try to see how I can work with somebody and build off what they're doing and what we can combine together. So that was the other thing it taught me. Then lastly, it taught me to have a yes and mentality. So the main tenet in improv, I don't know if you know this, Zane, is saying yes and. So taking off kind of what we just said is taking someone's suggestion and anding that, saying yes and. So it taught me to have that mentality in life, going to that conference, right? Taking that trip, just saying to yes and to things. And because you never know what doors are going to open up. I had a great meeting with Clayton Oates. I don't know if you know Clayton. Do you know Clayton?
I don't.
Accounting strategist, technology guy, keynote speaker in the accounting profession for a number of years. And, I took a red eye out to Vegas to, I think it was Digital CPA or QuickBooks Connect, one of the two a year ago. And I had a heartfelt conversation with Clayton. He's one of the most influential people in accounting, just talking about life. And if I didn't take that red eye out to go to that conference, I would never have had that conversation. He actually wrote the foreword to my book, and it's great. I'm so fortunate and grateful for him to do that. So it's having that yes and mentality that taught me to just start saying yes to things. Yes to this interview, right? Yes to that mastermind group. And I think if more people can have that mindset, they can, have success in their endeavors.
Yeah, I think people underestimate what a team sport improv is and how much it is. It's not about being the funniest. It's about how can you react to anything that happened with somebody else, which is life, right? You can have the best laid plan, but it doesn't matter if everybody else hasn't got the same plan. And it's working on and creating a self that you're prepared enough that you can react to that situation. And I've never really thought of improv as a really great place for people to learn to be a good team member and how to react to life properly. But what you explained it and what your learnings. And I somehow got down the improv space a couple of months ago, just like
nice,
but just like some random piece on, I don't know, I came up maybe on Facebook Reels. I came somewhere and I went down it and they were explaining like how improv works and what really makes great. I was like, geez, I might have actually, when I was reading Super Communicators, I think they have a chapter in
Charles
it.
Duhigg, yeah.
Yeah, so they talk about improv there. So I might have run down some rabbit hole on improv. And it is, luckily for me, I have no problem to talk in front of people. I'm probably not smart enough to care. It's never been an issue. I've always enjoyed that type of, just talk on the spot. But I think it's a great tool that many people should consider using.
Yeah, I think if everybody did improv, the world would be a better place. It allows you to be a kid again, Zane, and you can kind of forget the stresses of the day, and you can go out there and just almost like make like a kid and play and around and make stuff up and have fun. And it's incredibly rewarding. It's salt to the earth people too. So if anybody's thinking about doing it, but pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, I strongly recommend it.
And same goes if you want to go do a stand-up comedy class or you go do Toastmasters. It's the same sort of thing. They're pushing you to be a little bit different, to put yourself out of that comfort zone. That's always great.
For sure.
Rory, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That is a good question. I would say don't be afraid to ask for help because people are willing to help you out. And so I think maybe in my younger years, I was nervous to ask for help and wouldn't reach out to folks. But I found it incredibly rewarding back to that, return relationships. When you work hard and you put yourself out there, people are willing to help you out. That's why I think I got so many great people to help contribute to the book because they wanted to help me out. They see what I'm doing. And so I think, that's some advice that I've gotten from a mentor early on. It's like, hey, Rory, ask for help. Just ask. And if they can't do it, maybe they'll put you in touch with someone who can. So, once again, taking that leap of faith and asking someone for assistance because most people, want to help you out.
Yeah, no, it's a great great piece of advice and something to repeat. Like, they always say, like, hey, there's never a silly question. Like, it's really true. People want you to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's just, they're never going to come out and say, ask me a question. People inherently want you to ask. They have knowledge to share and they want to give it to you. So feel free to ask those questions. You'll learn so much more that way. And I mean, it's the best way to learn because I'm asking Rory questions today and I've learned a ton. I've made a bunch of notes over here. I've got like 3 books I need to go read. It makes a difference. It will change your perspective on life. It will give you learning and it will drive you forward.
Yeah.
If I was a new accountant and I was considering entering the accounting field but wasn't too sure about it, what advice would you give me?
That your perception of accounting or what accounting is becoming is probably not accurate. And this is the golden age of the profession. Zane, I'm collaborating with a number of really awesome folks and I have relationships with some other folks that are doing some really neat stuff. And I always say, I wrote in the chapter of the book, perception is funny because a lot of people perceive, or public perceives wealth advisors or financial advisors still as stock pickers, like I mentioned. They probably see accountants as more of the debits and credits and bean counters, right? Mm-hmm. And we are so much more than that. We're strategic advisors. We're helping people start their first businesses, grow their first businesses, sell their businesses. On the wealth side, we're helping people grow their personal finances, helping them, understand what they want out of life. And so it's so much more. We're really those strategic advisors that are really helping people, guiding them along life's path, their financial journey, right? Their financial life cycle. And so you're really helping people optimize not only their businesses, but I always say we're helping people optimize their well-being. So it's a wonderful time to join accounting or wealth advisory, right? I really say that we're moving to a point in time where technology is going to take over a lot of the menial work, and we're going to be able to connect with people and help them transform their lives. I'm a big fan of Ron Baker and the work he talks about. And really, we're not just trusted advisors, we're transformational advisors. And we're doing that by helping people build better businesses and hopefully in turn, have personal wealth as well. So I think for those that are thinking about coming accounting, things are changing rapidly, right? But it's a great time to be in the profession. There's so much opportunity, especially if you want to go out on your own to build the practice, of your dreams. There's opportunity to do that, and have a successful business.
Exceptional. Rory, at Protea Conversations, we love to end with some rapid fire. I have 5 questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Zane.
Okay. Question number 1. What would your death row meal be? What would your final meal be?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. So my mom makes really good Mexican food. She grew up on the border of the California-Mexican border in Calexico. She makes really good tamales. Every December 26th, she makes like 400 tamales and she passes them around in the community. And then she makes amazing carrot cake cupcakes from scratch. And I just had some recently and I can't have like 1 or 2. I usually have like 5 or 7 or 8. So give me my mom's tamales with some Spanish rice. And then let's top it off with some carrot cake cupcakes made from scratch.
Oh my gosh, exceptional choice. Do you prefer audiobooks or paper books?
I do prefer audiobooks and I listen at 2x, which is dangerous because what I'll end up doing is having to put a note in. I'll have to go back, re-listen to that part of the book and put a note in. But I'm a big audiobook learner. I have probably 300, 400 plus books in there.
Same. If you had 20 minutes to exercise, what would that exercise be?
So I do F45, which is 45 minutes, but the actual exercise is about 24, I believe. So I love the high intensity training. You can do like 45 seconds exercise, 15 seconds off, but it's great high intensity training that really gets the blood flowing.
Right. What is your favorite piece of technology that you're currently using to make your life better?
So I bought this Theramind. It's by the same company that has a Theragun.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's these goggles that you put on that massage your forehead. It has a heating factor as well too. And you can meditate while using it. It has been, a really useful piece of technology. It allows me to get into a meditative state. So I'm going to say the Theramind product.
It's a great choice. Last question. If you're stuck on a deserted island and you could only bring 3 items with you, what would they be?
My gosh. Well, if I'm on a desert island, it'd be nice to have like a jet ski or Sea-Doo, right?
You can bring whatever you like. This is your
whatever
choice.
I like, right? I would try to probably bring a Starlink satellite so I can and a TV so I can watch sports and Curb Your Enthusiasm reruns.
Incredible. Rory, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us in Product Conversations.
Zane, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And with that, we ended another Product Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Product Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence, embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Product Conversations.